Hello everyone, it's Susanne here from the Project Manager Clinic, and this podcast is about neurodiversity as a project management superpower. How do we unlock the autistic strengths in the PM world? Well, I'm an autistic person on the high functioning side, I guess, and I've been in project management now for probably 30 years. And it hasn't always been easy, but I've managed to get my way around it. But increasingly, we're starting to realise how the autistic mind works and how it can be of benefit, particularly in fields where pattern recognition, attention to detail, and logical processing are key skills. Well, they are core autistic strengths, and they perfectly align with project management and project management excellence, I must say. So today we're just going to talk a little bit about reframing those traits, as I mentioned, and looking at a paradigm shift. So this is Susanne Moore from the Project Management Clinic, and today is in Series 1, Episode 2, and I hope that you get some value out of this. So potentially project teams may appreciate a autistic or neurodiverse project manager, and we're going to talk a little bit about how that powerful skill of recognizing patterns has certainly helped me in the past, in my career. It's been a really interesting journey, and I've always found that it's my secret weapon. Recognizing patterns is what I do all the time to understand how the world works. Now, if you're sitting out there going, "Oh yes, that's me, I do that as well," you may not do it in quite the same way as somebody who is autistic. For me, in my personal life, I get so used to the patterns that I see around me, and they could be a pattern for getting in the car. How do I do that? It could be a pattern for what I observe a person does all the time, what their character's like, what I can expect from them next. Because you may not have thought about this before, but everybody and pretty much everything falls into a pattern. So for the autistic person, those patterns are very, very clear, and they are determining how you see life. It can sometimes restrict you, and I can hyper-focus on something. As the pattern goes through, if there's a change in the pattern, that may start to unsettle me. It's okay so much if it happens once, but I'll know it's happened once. If it happens twice, I'll certainly know it's happened twice, and I'll start to get distressed by it, and I will talk about the pattern to whoever it may be concerning. And if nothing changes and the pattern continues, that can either be quite disruptive to my thinking, or it can be something that I create a new pattern out of and make a strategic plan how I'm going to deal with it. So on project management, pattern recognition, or understanding how to create patterns, how to observe them, and how to put them in place is incredibly important, because one of the key things that we do as project managers is to develop plans, schedules, pull things together, develop solutions for things, identify how all of the deliverables in the project fit together, and manage a team, of course. So we're fundamentally able to reshape a project by understanding the patterns, some of which we have created when we've designed the project or the program, but also understanding what we need to do to alter the pattern when we've seen it. So we're able to reshape and plan. And I would say, certainly from my perspective, that staying calm is a real skill. So instead of flapping about and getting all distressed that this or that is happening, I understand that my pattern or my process is to stay calm in the moment, look for the pattern, look for the evidence, and then develop a solution. So another fundamental skill of most project managers and most autistic people is they see attention to detail, or they see the detail in the landscape or the puzzle. And I'm not necessarily so good at this because I think I may hyper-focus sometimes on that problem or that attention to detail, but I can usually pick it. And sometimes for me, because it's not really my strength, I'm more strategic, I will get someone else to resolve it. So I think that these two things, understanding and seeing patterns and seeing and being able to have attention to detail, are two really important things for project managers. So just to give you an example of how I tend to work, it really has to do with the logical processing that goes on for me after I've noticed the pattern. And some of those patterns can be putting together a really large program, and there's a whole raft of different complexities and deliverables and needs and wants and requirements that go into what the project or program actually is. So I tend to take on all of this information fairly quickly by reading, by talking to people, by observing, and mostly it's observing and looking for the evidence that backs up what I'm seeing. That's really important for me to have the evidence instead of just saying, oh, well, I think such and such, or it's all going, we're going to have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I look for the evidence. Why do we need to do that? Why would we take that action? Now, I can frustrate people because I may seem a little bit bland as I'm processing. I can seem very calm, or I can not disconnect, but I sort of remove myself a little bit by going and reflecting, taking time out, and just letting all of that information filter through my brain. And I know from experience that my brain will work it out, and it'll work out the pattern, and at some point the entire program will just come out of my head. Now, that's not saying that I'm more clever than anybody else. It's saying that that's how my brain works. All the information goes in, my brain sorts it into patterns and logical sequences, and of course it all comes out in the form of a project approach or strategy. It will identify what project components go into which projects, how many projects we have, what the phasing for those projects might be, who should be involved in those projects, what the resources look like across those projects. And bear in mind now, I'm talking about the development of a program that generally has a number of projects, large projects that sit underneath it, with maybe smaller projects sitting underneath those projects, or certainly activities. So I'm able to form all of that in my head by doing those things that I said, observing. Usually it's observing people, processes, situations, environments, reading, looking at all the evidential documents and whatever artifacts there are, listening to people and really taking on what those people are talking about instead of giving my opinion at the start. And then I'm able to formulate those complex puzzles into a coherent and logical, actionable plan that has been, I think, probably well thought through, certainly in a logical sequence. Then I can take that off to my team and certainly my senior people, if it's a large information technology project, for example, and we can work through and start to refine things. What I found sometimes in the past is this whole process from where to go, and that's what the start of actually starting from scratch on a project to develop the whole program roadmap. That usually takes me about 3 weeks. And sometimes people think they should be seeing more activity from me. They should see me doing the schedule or whatever that is, because they don't necessarily realise that the way I work is I will take it all in and then it will just all be spat out like a computer, which is pretty much how my brain works. And I think it's how a lot of autistic people's brains work. So as you can see already, these are skills and strengths that work in a project environment and work really well in any project environment, because that's what we are doing. We're managing a team to get to the other end whilst delivering everything that needs to be delivered. So, as I said, this podcast, this episode is about reframing those autistic traits as strengths. So if we understand that paradigm shift can occur, we can also acknowledge that some of these traits are often misunderstood in workplaces, but they're actually high-value assets. Now, where things can sometimes go wrong for the autistic project manager is not that so many people are talking to you at once, or that the program is very large and there's a lot of pressure. It's other things like managing the bright lights in the office, managing the noise that might be in the office, trying to keep your focus with all of these distractions that are going on around you is much more difficult for an autistic person, and we will get quite tired and worn out just by all of that stimulation. So what I often do, if I find that that's the issue, is I get up from my desk very often, and probably once every half an hour. I go for a walk. I might change positions. I might go outside. If it gets more challenging for me, I will just go and sit in the toilets or stand in the toilets just for 15 minutes and just recenter myself. Try to get some quietness, and then I'm absolutely fine. But these traits can reshape team dynamics, which is what I was saying before, because we often look at things in a different way. Just like we look at problems and challenges in a particular way that's often different to the norm, we're also very attuned to observing team dynamics. And again, these can be very, very subtle changes in your team. But like I said previously, 1 time is okay. That might just be an accident. 2 times, I'm starting to see a pattern. I don't always wait till the 3rd time, because I'll start doing something about it when I see it the 2nd time. And this is where those very clear decision-making skills come in for the autistic person. It's a really key skill for a project manager too, to be able to collect the evidence, present it to your stakeholders, and encourage them to make decision. If you are able to make the decision yourself, then that's quite easy for an autistic person, because they'll see through what needs to happen, consider it, gather the evidence, and the decision will be made. Now, project outcomes can also be seen as challenges to accommodate. So instead of seeing them as a problem or a real issue or something that we can't do, the autistic project manager just sees them as a normal challenge of everyday life. It's another puzzle to pull apart and put back together. Now, as I'm talking, you might find that my tone is fairly monotone, and that's because I'm generally like this, almost on a flat line. I don't go up and down in big blips. I'm usually on a flat line. Doesn't mean that I can't get excited and happy about things or really sad about things. But generally, it's just very pragmatic in the way that I work. Now, I've found that can infuriate people sometimes, and that's just something that we have to deal with. Sometimes project teams may be missing some of the critical capabilities that we need in the project. And again, this is a project management job. This is what they're supposed to do. But those traits, again, like attention to detail, pattern recognition, can be reframed from a corporate standpoint, and they become our essential and differentiated superpowers. So the autistic project manager can work really well in project management. It's almost like it was created for us. And I would hope that organisations are working on and being encouraged to highlight some of these strengths in your organisation and to better understand and to actively leverage neurodivergent talent. So at the Project Management Clinic and through some of these podcasts, we can provide some of those insights for both project management professionals and leaders on how to activate these strengths from within your teams. So if you're interested in finding out more about how the Project Management Clinic can help you, then please contact me. The details will be below. We have a number of people that can assist coaching or mentoring to actually improve some of these things and provide and work with you to unlock autistic strengths to transform project delivery. So to give you some practical, actionable methods and tools to implement rather than just talk a little bit about it. So thinking about neurodivergent thinking, the evidence-driven project leadership, some of the other things that we talked about in this podcast, it's a match made in heaven, or certainly made in project manager land. So that's all from me today on this podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you attend the next one, and you can find out more about what's happening by going to the website where we have events on there that are listed. And if you want to subscribe to the website as well as the YouTube channel, you will get advance notice of what's coming up. So have a great project day from the Autistic Project Manager.